my next guest, Kadidja Yansane. And so I want to let you know, I have known Kadidja for, gosh, it's got to, I'll ask her when she comes on stage, but it's probably about easily 15, maybe more years. And we met through Agape. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Kadidja is the founder of bloomintoyou.com and the creator of the Business Queen Academy, where she helps women deliver their soul signature in a coaching program. Over the past decade, she's coached her clients to do things like package their experience and expertise into a marketable product and have their first 10K month and position themselves as leaders in their niche. Kadidja was a women's study major at UC Berkeley and is a certified coach. She is devoted to empowering women to love themselves and to do what they love. She is a proud mom of two, Naima, who's 8, and Khalil, who's 7, together with her husband and business partner, Mike. They live and they love to work with clients, and she loves to garden, antique shop, go on walks with her family. And if you are a soulful coach, healer, or service-based expert looking to attract more aligned clients, you will get her free gift, which the link is provided in the speaker bio. So please put your hands together and help me welcome to the stage, Kadidja.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me. And I've been tuning in today. I heard your interview that you were on the receiving end of sharing. So I'm thrilled to have a conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kadidja. I love that background. I love those roses. That's beautiful.
Thank you. And it's funny, that's my pregnant belly. When my daughter was 8 months. So we knew each other way before I had my children. And I forgot that it was there until I can see it now.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh. So I know you, since classes
yes.
And you were taking classes because I think I was one of the facilitators.
It was a money class. I can't remember what it was called. Yeah. But, it was an Agape abundance class. And so I just loved it. And I remember you were one of the TAs, and just the way that you would pray would move me so much. I'd be like, wow, it's just poetry when you would pray. And I know it's still that way. So that was an incredible class.
Yes. Yes. I'm wondering if it was Reverend Cheryl Ward's class, but it doesn't matter. It is. It matters that she taught it, but what matters is that you are here with me now, and you are helping women embody their influence. And when they do, make it possible to create a powerful legacy. And I thank you for the work that you're doing and the integrity. That's one of the things that from the first time that we met, I just was so moved by who you are, like who you be. There's a beingness to you that is just so exquisite.
I so appreciate you saying that. I received that. And it's interesting, as I was thinking about our conversation, when I think about like knowing you then in LA to how I've grown, like I feel like that's something that people would always say to me, like, that they appreciate my energy and how I show up in the world. Yet internally, especially at that time, like I felt like I knew that I had all these gifts. Like I know that I'm smart, but there was still a lot of self-doubt, and I didn't know what my offering was. And it was incredibly painful because I felt like there was more for me to do, and I didn't know how to quite touch it. And I would have never guessed that. Looking in hindsight, it makes complete sense that I would be supporting others to create and put out their own soul offering.
I love that. What's so fascinating to me is how we go through this phase of questioning, which I think is actually really necessary to really dive into what am I here to deliver? What am I here? What are the gifts and the skills? What are my talents? Because when you have a calling on your heart, which you do, there's this it doesn't go away. It like
No.
I know for me, it keeps me up at night. Like
Yeah.
it'll wake me up and I'll be like, okay, spirit, okay, okay. What is it?
Yeah. And I walked around like that for years. And it's so funny just because as mothers, that like that's part of what I would love to share or want to share with my daughter. It's like I don't think that I knew at the time that I was going through it that it was normal and
Mhm.
that um, there's a learning curve, that we're going to experiment and try different things until you really land in your lane. And so I think part of the beauty now of so many women sharing their soul gifts, their offerings, so many gifts that have been taken for granted. So their healing, their coaching, their therapy, that I feel like there's more, there's a path now where it's like, oh, okay, I'm not just here by myself wondering why does it look so easy for others when it's like no, there are people. And I absolutely, like, one of the main things that I credit is being in circles of women, being in communities just like the one that I was at Agape with, um, guides like you that really supported me to step into my power.
Mhm. Well, I saw it. I saw it when we met, and I always go back to that, that we'd meet at that coffee, and I saw it. It was really clear.
Yeah.
It was very, that there is a power and a strength within you. And one of the things that I appreciate about how our society has evolved is that there are more women who are willing to be there for each other
Mhm.
and to disagree with that tenet of competition,
Yeah.
but really willing. To me, a teacher is someone who draws forth in someone else their own beauty and their own talents and their gifts, their genius.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like that's part of my job as a coach. And I know a lot of people that are watching are coaches, healers, and guides, is that we see it for others when they can't see it for themselves. And until they do see it for themselves, and you just keep passing, um, the torch on. It's like when someone, it's such a gift for someone to be able to see your gifts.
Mhm.
A lot of times I work with clients that take for granted, or just people that I talk to in my community, that they take for granted things that they do so naturally. Like, well,
Mhm.
isn't everybody intuitive? Or can't, isn't everyone good with dressing well? Isn't everyone a good cook? Like, why would anyone want to pay for this? And it's like, realizing that no, not like everyone has their own unique gifts. And so the very thing that you could be taking for granted, someone else is like in pain and struggling over. And what a gift it is to be able to extend the hand and say, like, hey, I'll show you how to do this, or and say
Mhm.
you can do this. It's not as hard as you think.
Oh, so beautiful. It reminds me so much of what mothering involves when we get ourselves out of the way, when we do our inner work, right? To really allow ourselves to see these beautiful beings that are in front of us
Absolutely.
and see their gifts and their unique gifts, and to hold that container around them, that and draw forth, right? I know that sounds so formal, draw forth their
No, but it's
brilliance, but
so true. I completely, and I feel like we're in an age and stage where we're creating that space where I think when I was growing up or when other people were growing up, like, um, I feel like I have a 8-year-old, she's gonna be 9 next month, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and it's amazing just being on this side as a parent. It's like seeing how they came in with certain gifts. And yes, we're cultivating them and cultivating their interests, but they came here with their own personality
yeah.
and their own temperament. And I definitely see my job is to nurture. Like, I was, as I was even thinking about connecting with you today, I know oftentimes mothers will joke or like, oh, that's my mini me. And even though my daughter comes from me, I don't feel like she's my mini me. And I don't want her to relate to herself as just a small version of me, that she's her own Like, yes, there are things that we share in common and there are things that I want to share with her, but I absolutely, my son too, want to foster and be curious, like, who are they? Who do they want? Like, my daughter takes piano lessons and my son doesn't have an interest in piano. He's interested in the drums, right? Versus being like, we all have to do it this way. And I think that that also applies to how we grow and share our businesses, that what works for you may not work for another business owner. And we
Yes.
just have to keep coming back to that, like, embodiment piece, like, who am I? What do I want? How do I want to express myself through the vehicle of my business?
That's so, there's a lot there. It's so helpful. I mean, I love that you have the space for your daughter to play the piano and your son to play the drums. And then referring to the coaches and also to having the guides. But I have fallen when I graduated from my professional practitioner training, which is a very rigorous training. There wasn't training about marketing. Now, I had a background in that from being a publicist and a project manager, but it wasn't the same because
Yeah.
it was about me. It was about the gifts coming through me. So going and working with different coaches, they all, they have a different perspective. And it isn't cookie cutter when your desire is to be genuinely yourself.
Yeah. So true. There's so many ways. I mean, I think that especially if you're a newer person, it can be helpful to have a recipe. I'll share, I am a first time home buyer, and we've been in our new house for about a year and a half. And prior to that, thank you. Prior to that, I had plants in pots and I wasn't really planting in the earth. And then as soon as we bought, I was like, oh my God, I want to get all of my plants into the ground. And so I had a friend who's a gardener. My mom's an incredible gardener too. Like, they literally were showing me, okay, you want to dig this much, you want it to be twice the size of the pot. And like, I just was insecure around putting, planting, even though someone might be like, all you do is dig a hole and put the plant in there. But I was just like, I just had the story that it was hard and it was new for me. Then once she sat down with me, and there was something so beautiful, like, my mom just turned 70, my friends in her late 60s, like, just to have these amazing older women sit me down and like walk me through how to like be connected to the earth. And then I was like off to the races, right? Now I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in my zone. I'm finding out all of my little tricks. So I think that if you're new to marketing, and it can feel very vulnerable to put yourself out there, versus when you're promoting someone else and they already have a big following, you feel like there's already this stuff behind you. Whereas when it's just you can take things very personal. So in that sense, I think it can be very helpful to have a recipe, to be like, okay, this is how I'm going to plant. I'm going to do step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yes.
And then once you feel like you've got that in, then you feel like you have more freedom to be creative, to toss things away. I see it just like cooking, it's like, oh, it needs a little bit more salt. It needs a little bit more thyme. I'm going to add some herbs. And so I think it can be incredibly valuable and helpful to have those frameworks, but then you also want to have the confidence to make them your own and then report back to you. Because just like you said earlier, a coach isn't here to just tell you what to do. They're here to check in and pull out of you what's really valuable and important for you. And since we're talking about business and marketing, yes, there are things that have been tested that work really well, that may work for you, but if it's not in alignment, it's not going to feel good. And you didn't start your business to be inauthentic.
Yes, all of that. It's so rich what you just shared. I was, I know for me, that whole concept of having a method was really helpful, but not rigid,
Mm-hmm.
right? That whole it can't be rigid, So, but to have a method, to have, again, you know what it reminds, it's a container, it's a roadmap.
Yeah.
Here's the roadmap and here's what you do. But what's really also very helpful is to have somebody that you can lean into who's ahead of you, like like your mom and your friend that have been there, that are able to say, come here, sit down with us. Let us show you the ropes. Let us show you how to do that. And I love that metaphor. It's real, and it's such a great metaphor
Mm-hmm.
for permission to own your influence. Again, not that you're an influencer. Maybe that is part of your path. Maybe that you become an influencer, but to the permission to be yourself, the permission to ask for help.
Yeah. It's so interesting because you're reminding me, I'm remembering when we planted those first few things. Her name's Barbara. She's actually a garden coach.
Ah,
And we were colleagues in a marketing program, actually, and she's local. But as she was sitting down with me, so on her website, part of her mission is to bring the joy of gardening to others.
mm,
And we're sitting here in the dirt. I'm in my knee pads. So like there's a little hack, like she shows me like, so your knees don't hurt, get on this knee pad. And so some gardeners might think like that's common sense. If your knees hurt, get a knee pad. But there was like this beautiful initiation that was happening, as she was showing me this. And just the other day, my mother, she propagates a lot of plants. And so she was telling me where to cut. Like, I would not know this unless, maybe I saw it in a book or went on a YouTube video. She's like, this is where you cut it. And like giving me her trained eye, even though she wouldn't
mm,
call herself an expert in this, right? Which is what a lot of women do. Like I'm just amazed at the expertise of people that come to me, yet part of the work, part of the path is to own that expertise. And I think that,
mm,
given that it's Mother's Day weekend, tomorrow's Mother's Day, like there's so many divine feminine skills that we take for granted, men and women too, take for granted and just expect from you because you're a woman. Like holding space, right? Sometimes that can be an intangible thing, like holding space for a friend or for a client, or there's so many things that happen behind the scenes that you don't see that are creating the space, that are creating connection, that is making it possible for this conversation to happen, for that raise to take place, for these two people to conversate. And it's like I think the time is now for these things that have been called soft skills, which I don't know that I like that term because it can seem as less valuable than quote unquote hard skills. But I think that so many women are owning those skills as worthy of pay, as not something you're just supposed to do because you're a mom. We're just supposed to not appreciate our moms or motherly skills because that's what you're supposed to do, to really just having reverence for what the mother does. And so it's like when I come out here and I'm in this garden, like, wow, the reverence of nature,
mhm.
and how she holds me and heals me. And but there's just so much that you can put into the soil of your business, like there's so many metaphors that come from it. But it's time that to honor and appreciate the mother, not when you graduate, not after this great thing happens. It's like she's there consistently in your heart, in the earth, like all around you. And I, being a parent now, like I have more compassion for my parents than I've ever had.
Right. Well, it's so beautiful to hear you speak about women and moms embodying their gifts, and how I was listening to you, I was thinking, everybody that's listening, take out a piece of paper, write down 5 qualities that you just take for granted about yourself. Like 5 things that are true about you. Good listener, grow great plants, laugh a lot, like 5, just 5. Like,
Yeah.
it's so important to honor yourself for the qualities. And so, speaking to that and how important it is to take that time for reverence to walk through your life. And I know that there may be people that are with us whose moms were less than ideal,
Mm.
that because of their own challenges weren't able to be the kind of moms that we are. And
Yeah.
so there is that invitation to address, to heal, to nurture, to soothe those parts and evolve beyond that, but not cut them off, right? To allow that to come in. And when I think about planting, I actually have a program that I've done in the past, and it's called Sowing the Seeds of Love,
Mm.
because I really love the metaphor of gardening. We get to weed out those
Yeah.
limiting thoughts, the dysfunction. We get to replace them, reseed. So, and like yours, bloom. You get to bloom as you are. You get to bloom where you are. Pema Chodron, start where you are.
Yes.
So I really love everything you're saying about that, and so beautiful that you have had this experience with your house and with these women and with receiving support.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that you said there. I can imagine, I think that even if, whether you've had a great relationship with your mom or a difficult relationship with your mom, or maybe your mom's not here, there, there can be a mother wound, even if you had a great relationship.
Absolutely.
And so my mom has been the person that has raised me and probably been my primary maternal figure, but there have been so many other maternal figures in my life, whether they have been coaches or teachers or extended family. And I think that if you don't have that, that it can be something that you pray for, that you say that you're opening your heart for,
Mhm.
um, to have that maternal figure. It can also be someone that's not living. Maybe it's an ancestor, and you develop this relationship with a great aunt or a grandmother. I feel like books have often been my mentors. Getting support from a therapist or a trauma-informed coach or therapist to help heal those mother wounds. But then
Mhm.
also, like, part of our work, which I didn't know starting and growing a business, is that you get to remother yourself and be that loving mother presence, that whatever you felt was missing, that your mother didn't provide, or you wish she had provided better, how can you start extending that to yourself? Like, that is so critical. I know that this is a diverse audience, but like, one of the things, some of you might be entrepreneurs, some of you may not, but we all have things in our lives that we mother, whether it's our business, whether it's a project, whether it's our children or the children of others. And how can you begin to say those kind things to yourself? Acknowledge how it is that you're feeling. So if you felt like you were always cut off, weren't able to express yourself, like, how can you now give yourself the freedom to express? And so for me, I was sharing with you when we connected a few weeks ago that my business has, and I didn't know that, has been such a huge vehicle for me to find my voice. And like the mother, the divine mother, you are so loved, and developing that relationship with the divine mother. And as you begin to create your gifts and express your gifts, like I feel like there's such a healing that happens, that you develop this relationship with the divine mother, and you also develop this relationship with your inner child that might be still grieving certain aspects of your childhood.
Mm, absolutely. All of that. Thank you.
You're
Thank you for that. The child within us will always be there. And I found that besides motherhood, so I feel like there's degrees of transformation, right? So I mean, we're all growing, hopefully, in some way or another. We're all having a spiritual death. We're all, in our relationships, there's spiritual divorces so that we keep evolving into the next, vision and version of ourselves, and becoming the women and moms that we always wanted to have, so that we can be there for our kids. And I just really appreciate what you're speaking to, because it is a continual becoming.
Yeah.
It's not just one time.
No.
And so I think about relationships. You get married, or you get into a very committed long-term relationship, and you're saying goodbye. You're grieving the marriage, life partner. Then you become a parent, and it's like, it's a little different. It changes your relationship with your partner, and then they grow older, and then the dreams that you had on your heart before you became a parent start to rise up again, unless you're working, in your dream job as you're growing with your children. And then they get to a point, and all of a sudden you're left with you again. And so having a business, so it's like all these stages of transformation, and having a business taps into all of that, all of it, your self-worth, your value, what it is that you feel like you're here to do. How do you manage with a child or two children and a partner, or if you're a single parent, there's so many different expressions.
Absolutely. I love hearing you also lay out the landscape, because my kids are still in the house, but just to hear, your daughter having gone away, and then finding, but this is just the beauty of conversations like this, because it gives you a window into what's to come, and all of those things. It's just when I look at my journey along the parenthood path of, like, from nursing to dealing with toddlers, and as they go to high school, and having women in your life at various phases, to like, oh yeah, your brain parks a little message that they said that now feels applicable to you in present time.
It's so true. It's so true, because I've often said the days are long, because some of those days when you have a child under 5, some of those, like, you feel like the days are years. You're like, oh my God. And then they fly by all of a sudden. But the seeds that you plant in terms of connection with your children from birth to 5, these are the connections that continue to grow stronger. Kids will go through an individuation stage, of course, but it doesn't have to be that terrible, like, by the grace of God, or, who I am and my husband is, we didn't have a rebellious teenager who had to push against every limit, because we were with her along the path. So she did what teenagers do, but it wasn't in reaction to us or in rebellion to us. So I truly believe that when you feed them when they're young, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, they continue to grow into more of themselves, and you get to be their steward.
That just warms my heart, and I love hearing that, and that's, like, my biggest hope, Sometimes I have this thought, I'm like, "I hope they still wanna hang out with me when they're older, because 'cause they're, like, at my hips right now," and,
Yes.
I love that you've fostered that type of connection where even though she's no longer in the home, that bond is so present.
Absolutely. And I want to also speak to a couple of things that I think are miscommunications that parents are told, right? So there's this, very intense message that kids aren't your friends. Right.
Mm,
So
mhm.
I want to say your relationship with your children is one of the most non-sexual, intimate relationships you will ever have.
Mm,
And the mother-child bond is very strong. The father-child bond is strong too. And there's that mother-child bond that is very specific.
yeah,
And so you get to be close with your kids. Yes, you want to foster them being independent, original thinkers, but in no way do you have to cut them off.
yeah.
You know, when you're mindful, I mean, there's things that I wouldn't tell my daughter because she doesn't need to know them. But if my
Mhm.
daughter asks me a question, like she has from the time she's little, without giving her an emotional suitcase to carry that's too heavy,
Yeah,
I respond
yeah,
very honestly.
yeah. Well, I love how you phrase that. I don't think I've actually heard it phrased that way before, that the bond that you have with your children is the most intimate, non-sexual bond. I don't know if that's exactly your words, but it's so true, and I don't think I knew even though I've always wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a mom, I wanted to be pregnant, I wanted to give birth, all of it. I still didn't know, and it's just like, I mean, now being a parent, I'm like, wow, and as close as I am with my mom, it didn't I didn't realize the level of depth and intimacy that a mom has with her children, and it's just the fact that we even confine love to just be between, you and a partner is really cutting off the amount of love that's available to us. And
Absolutely.
I love how people are speaking about relationship in more broader terms because, we can have intimacy with our friends, with the people that we work with our children, and love being spoken about in this way just has it be that you never have to feel like you're lacking. And it doesn't mean that you can't have a desire for a partnership or any kind of other relationships, but as you were just speaking now, Wendy, the way that you said that, it just really landed as true. It's just like, yes, it is such a bond that even in my dreams of motherhood, it's hard to know until you actually experienced it.
Yes. 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 Thank you. Thank you. And I want to say so much more. And I know we're going to have more of a conversation at another time. So I want to just say to you, thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for being the mom that you are, and the wife that you are, and the coach that you are, and the daughter that you are. I really appreciate you. And I'm so grateful we have this opportunity to connect and for people to experience you. And I know you have a gift for our viewers. Would you share what your gift is?
I would love to. And thank you, Wendy, for asking me to be a part of this. Uh-oh. And everything that you're doing with the Million Mamas movement, just your dedication and commitment to mothers is so inspiring.
Thank you.
I do have a free gift. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Client Creation. It is a PDF. So if you identify as a soulful healer, coach, mentor, guide, and you're looking to attract more authentically aligned clients, I think you're going to love this guide. It covers the 4 M's of client creation, which I see as mindset, manifesting, marketing, and how to monetize your expertise. So you can check that out.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, there's a link with Khadijah's bio in her bio, and you'll find it there. So we'll make sure that you have that. Thank you for being with us. Have a beautiful Mother's Day.
You too, Wendy. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Bye for now.